like feel free to jump in if there's like questions you have or personal experience. I think we all have very different fitness journeys that we've been through, so I'm just going to talk about it from my point of view. So for those who don't know, I lost 100 pounds starting in 2007 to about 2011, I want to say, and then have been trying to keep it steady since then. And it took me a while to find euphoria, but this has made it really easy to stay in shape. So I want to talk a little bit about mathematics for those who don't know how weight loss kind of works. So it all kind of breaks down to calories ingested, like how much energy you take in and then how much energy you put out. And that kind of simple equation, if there's a deficit, you will lose weight. If there is a not deficit, if there's a surplus, you will gain weight. And for me, kind of growing up, it was just very easy. I grew up in Kansas City where there's lots of barbecue, and it was just really easy to eat a lot and didn't work out that much. And then in college, it just like went to hell because it was just rough. I got like freshman 15, so even more. But yeah, so that, and I eventually learned a little bit more about nutrition. Living out here in California as opposed to Kansas City, it's a little bit easier to eat healthy. You're very, very lucky. The weather's nice. You can like work out pretty much any time of year. But I learned that how that equation works. You know, if you're counting calories or keeping track of calories, it's a deficit or surplus. 3,500 calories equals 1 pound, and that is just a really easy way to keep track. And just knowing that 3,500 calories equals a pound, like really empowers you to make positive changes and like good decisions. So when people ask me how I lost weight, I'll generally say diet and exercise, but it's not really a diet. One thing I want to stress in these talks is it's not about taking away any one thing. Although there are diets that are out there that maybe if you have issues with gluten or something like that, it's a good thing to do. But generally, I found in that whole journey that there was a lot of diets that I would try and they would eventually fail. Like they would be kind of short-term gains that would kind of sacrifice long-term happiness. You do a diet to lose a little bit of weight and then you stop the diet and then potentially put it back on. And there's a really big focus on what you take away rather than replacing it with something else. So I found for me, there were lots of habits that I would get into around eating. Like it's almost like an addiction, right? Like you're stressed at work, so you eat, and then you put on weight because you eat more than you should eat. Yes. Yes. But you can like it was just hard to figure out like what would work. And I found after a long journey, and then when I got to maintaining, it wasn't just about taking things away, but replacing it with something better. So, for example, this is probably the biggest change I made was eating at Chipotle. So I think everybody thinks that Chipotle is like really, really unhealthy because you have the giant burrito that has rice and beans and cheese and sour cream and all these different things. And the empowering thing about calories is you can look at it and you can say, well, I used to eat a Chipotle burrito that when I sat down and calculated it, and have a calculator online, that it was like 1,300 calories. And if you just change, if the one thing you change is getting rid of the tortilla and getting a bowl, like that's, I think, 390 calories. It's 7, I know that. But it's 390 calories that you are now saving. And if you go to Chipotle 10 times in a month, you've lost a pound. And that's something that's minor. It's something that you can change. And maybe it's, you take away the tortilla and you get a salad instead, so you get lots of fiber. So it's not just it's not just taking away things. Like lots of diets focus on taking away, but putting things back in that are like really helpful. So for me, I went from like a 1,300 to 1,500 calorie burrito down to a salad I get there now, and I had it for lunch, and it was delicious. It's black beans, the fajitas, the sofritas, which is the new tofu thing, which is really good, and then chicken. And it's just like protein, chock full of like good stuff, and I can look online and find a calculator. So that's like worked really well for me. It's like perfectly filling. And then part of that is if you are going to take away things, like do it very gradually. So it's really hard in a diet to just jump into a diet, right? any type of lifestyle change. If you change it once, your body's not. So I found with losing weight that I would start a diet, say it's a spaghetti squash thing, and would do that for a week, and then I would be starving or really craving something, and I would go out and eat a bunch of something that I'm craving, be it giant Chipotle burrito or Wendy's or something bad. So there's like stepping down is something that's really valuable. Has anybody else had an experience like doing something like that?
Yeah, I think it's called lateral changes. So instead of going forward and thinking, all right, the spaghetti squash is a great example because they've done that. That's like one of the bigger things. But it's the sauces that you put on it become like the bigger deal. The butter is a huge thing. I grew up with it. It's all over both of my sides of my family cook with it. So it's like stick of butter goes with everything. And that's the one of the big things. It was like almost like losing a friend, getting rid of butter. I was like, what are you talking about? But it's one of the bigger. I mean, you had that, and your whole thing was off. Whatever you made, just cancel out. So.
Yeah. And it's tough. Like it's and I guess the nice thing about doing the balance and having it be a slow thing is, and not having it be a diet, is you can still allow yourself to enjoy the things that you like. Like when I go home to Kansas City, I still have barbecue, and it's still absolutely delicious. And I not allow myself, but that's something that's kind of built into the lifestyle change. It's not a big deal. Maybe I just have a little bit less of it. And part of it for me was I was used to eating a lot. So for me, what worked really well was breaking it down into smaller meals, almost like not just shrinking my stomach, but shrinking how much I'm used to eating. So that when I do go home and have barbecue, I'm not eating a full rack of ribs. It's something else that's less, and I feel full much faster. Like that for me was just a very simple change. Yeah.
What are your recommendations for travel? Because I feel like that's the biggest hurdle is whether you're on vacation or like visiting family back east for us. Like, in California, it's so easy, but like going home, traveling is always really difficult. Like, oh, I'm